The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show was originally broadcast on January 11th, 2022.
Aloha and welcome, Maui, to the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show, brought to you by Mokulele Airlines. I'm your host, Pamela Timpop, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce. And today we're going to discuss worker shortages, supply chain issues, and COVID mandates with Jennings Imel, the executive director of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Western Regional Office. We're going to speak with the executive director of the Activities and Attractions Association about staffing shortages and how they are affecting activity businesses. And we're going to get to know more about a new company called The Good Apple, who makes gourmet caramel apples and participated in the 8th Annual Hawaiian Airlines Made in Maui County Festival. But first, I'm so thrilled to have and welcome Jennings Imel back. Again, he is the Executive Director of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's Western Regional Office. The office is responsible for legislative and political grassroots activities in California, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and Hawaii in support of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's national policy goals. Happy New Year. Good morning and welcome, Jennings.
Happy New Year. Good morning, Pam. Good to be with you.
So glad to have you on again. So there is so much for us to talk about. How about if we start about what's going on with COVID across the country and how you feel this is influencing worker shortages?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the last couple of weeks and months have been a difficult time, and just when we were hoping to kind of rebound, after the big Delta surge, then we get the big Omicron surge, and, obviously the number of cases is pretty much is worse than ever. We're looking at anywhere between 500,000 and 600,000 cases a day, seemingly, across the country. And this has been a major setback. The good news is, of course, is the fact that the virus seems to be milder, and so people aren't getting quite as sick. So hospitalization numbers and deaths obviously aren't going up the way that they did with Delta and the original strain. But the problem is, of course, is that it's so contagious that we're seeing folks, having to take off time after getting sick. We're seeing, companies experiencing, this huge problem of folks getting sick in the workplace and having to take off a minimum of 5 days. And we're happy now that it's kind of been that the guidance has been revised to just 5 days and not any longer. But still, 5 days is a long time to have a number of workers out, especially when you're trying to keep up with consumer demand and when we've got supply chain issues as well that are rampant. Businesses are really struggling, and we're hearing cases of businesses that are having at any one time as much as 10% or more of their workforce out sick. And it's really exacerbating a problem that was already in existence, before Omicron and even before the pandemic, which is the workforce crisis that we're seeing. And that workforce crisis has certainly become more acute, and the Omicron situation is just making that so much worse.
Yeah, and it's also a huge issue across the nation, and certainly here with teacher shortages as well, as we're trying to get the kids back to school.
That's right. Yep, we're seeing teacher shortages. We're seeing healthcare worker shortages. Obviously, throughout the supply chain, we're seeing shortages of truck drivers, of warehouse workers. It really is staggering, that the gap that we're looking at right now between the number of job openings and the number of people looking for work, those are folks that are classified as unemployed, is 3.7 million at the moment. So there are 3.7 million more jobs than there are workers to fill them. As of December, there were 10.6 million job openings. These are kind of record highs. We've never been in a situation where we had 10, 11 million job openings. We've got, like I said, 6.9 million unemployed individuals. We've got a very high quit rate as well that is particularly impacting the services sector, hospitality, big, obviously industry on Maui. The quit rate is now surging to all-time highs, 3%. That's 4.5 million workers that quit their jobs just last month. This is a serious, serious problem that businesses are going to continue to have to contend with. And we're also seeing kind of just folks continue to remain on the sideline as well. When you look at workforce participation rates, we're at 61% workforce participation. Back in February of 2020, we were at 63% of the country was actively participating in the workforce. So that's a 2% drop. That's several million workers that we're missing from the pipeline, right, that we don't have access to that we did just 2 years ago. And unfortunately, we don't see those numbers improving. And that's going to continue to be a problem, and something that we're talking about in Washington, D.C. with policymakers, but also talking about with our businesses and trying to help them as they navigate this and come up with employer-led solutions to kind of fill their talent pipeline and to meet their workforce needs. But then also Congress and the administration really need to start taking this seriously.
Absolutely. What do you see, what are some of the discussions being had in Congress, and what are some of the solutions that they're looking at? Because as you talk about, and we've been seeing, and of course everybody across the nation's been seeing, with this quit rate increasing, where are they going? Mm-hmm. And how are they sustaining themselves? We're seeing people get back to work and then decide. We're hearing all sorts of things, from choosing to not work as long hours or quality of life, or just not wanting to go back to what they did before. Right.
There's a lot of that, and with the labor market being so tight, the fact that a lot of workers realize that they can go somewhere else, that they're empowered more than ever. They can, go pursue something else and get more money for it. And obviously employers are competing constantly for that workforce, and we're seeing wage increases go up across the board, which has been a great thing. Unfortunately, a lot of that's been eroded by inflation, which I could talk about a little bit later. But, I think that workers are feeling empowered to look for new opportunities. And I will say that there's some kind of a silver lining here with the quit rate, is the fact that we're seeing an all-time high in business startups, in entrepreneurship levels. So that has been kind of a good thing to come out of the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, we had been on a trajectory of the last 10 years of seeing entrepreneurship levels actually decrease in this country, fewer new businesses getting started. But ever since the pandemic, as folks have kind of reprioritize things and kind of taken some time off and thought about maybe, other pursuits that they wanted, to endeavor. We've seen, this massive increase in the number of small business startups. I think that, those entrepreneurship rates, that's been a good thing. And the more people that we can get starting their business, obviously the better, I think, for the economy to kind of enhance the dynamism of our economy. So that has been a good thing. But I think the quit rate is going to continue to be a problem. And then, yes, of course, the fact that Congress needs to take this seriously. As far as what they can do, I think that the most obvious solution would probably be on the immigration front. We have, as of right now, it's something like 700,000, a gap of 700,000 temporary visa holders that haven't been processed. We're essentially short that number from what we would usually have pre-pandemic. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're seeing long processing times, massive backlogs from government agencies in processing important visas like, J1 visas, H-2B, H-1B, H-2A. These are worker visas that businesses rely on. They rely on this workforce to come over and fill that gap. And unfortunately, the last 2 years, that has really fallen off a cliff, and we have not been able to meet that need. And so that's kind of an obvious area where Congress and the administration can look at that, improve some of these processing times, and make sure that employers get access to the workers that they need.
Yeah, it's a huge issue, and here we're trying to embark on so many new initiatives, improving our infrastructure. We're going to need a lot of workers to get this work done.
That's exactly right. Yep. Just passed a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. We'll need workers to do that.
Yep. Yeah, this is a huge challenge. We're dealing with, in addition to the worker challenge, which also impacts the supply chain, but we've got some mandates here that we're supposed to go into effect on reusable plastic container bans, and the challenge is that we can't get the supplies in to meet. Even businesses are trying to comply to gear up and get ready for the ban, but we just can't get the needed supplies. And with the supply chain issues, we're hearing things may take anywhere from 12 to 24 months to clear up.
Wow. Yep. I think that parses pretty well with what we're hearing on kind of supply chain issues in general. If you look at the average number of ships that are anchored off the ports of LA and Long Beach, at the end of November 2021, the average was 84 ships a day.
Wow.
That's a staggering number. And, we don't think that that's, going to go away anytime soon, unfortunately. A lot of folks that we're talking to, see the supply chain crunch continuing well into Q2, Q3 of 2022. And a lot of the supply chain issues, of course, have to do now with Omicron, but just with, in general, these workforce shortages that we're seeing throughout the supply chain. That's going to continue to be a problem. And so, and the supply chain has just kind of, really struggled to get back up and running and meet the surge in demand that we saw once we kind of hit, the recovery portion of the trajectory down from, the nadir in the spring of 2020. And once the economy started to get back up and running and we started to see all kinds of COVID relief and this huge increase in demand, supply chains have just really struggled to catch up with that. In addition to seeing kind of, some disruptions in the Asia Pacific region with various closures due to outbreaks, COVID outbreaks and things like that. It's just kind of been a real struggle over the last, 8 to 12 months for the supply chain to get back up and running again. And the workforce issue is going to continue to play a role in this and be kind of a major headwind. But I do think that, we're on the right path, but the supply chain issues are probably going to continue well into 2022, unfortunately.
Boy, we're trying to start the new year off with a bang, Jennings.
No, stop. The good news is that the administration is aware of these things. I mean, we've been talking with them throughout, and we made some progress on, speaking of the ports of LA and Long Beach, we made some progress in kind of keeping those ports open and making sure that, products they were getting offloaded onto the docks and then onto the rail as soon as possible, and that the port operations were continuing throughout the night. So that was kind of a small win for us, but that's something that we're going to continue to do. We continue to bring together our member companies with the administration to talk about things like that. How can we, kind of relieve some of these bottlenecks that we're seeing? So we're making improvements, not as fast as we'd like, but they are happening.
I've wondered, there was such a big thing, of course, about supply chain issues right around Christmas holiday, and everybody was saying, are you going to be able to get the toys for your children or grandchildren, and, the things that you want, are they going to really be available? I didn't really see huge issues here on Maui. I mean, clearly there wasn't as much supply as we were used to seeing. But I just wondered, was there any analysis of the impact of the supply chain issues on retail spending this past holiday season?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. The retail spending. I think that I had read somewhere that it was slightly down. Although don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure on that. But I do think that it was a problem. I think one of the biggest problems, though, that we've seen as it relates to kind of holiday spending and just kind of spending in everyday life going forward with the supply chain is the fact that these supply chain issues. The businesses are facing, the workforce issues, the lack of workers, the fact that they're having to obviously increase pay to compete for workers, that we have increased costs, inputs for manufacturers, and all of these things. It's all helping to lead to inflation.
Right.
These are all major contributors to the inflation that we've been seeing, and I think that is one of the biggest threats facing the economy overall. I think that the supply chain issue. And like I said, the workforce issue, that's going to continue to be one of the major drivers, in addition to the fact that we did spend over $6 trillion in COVID relief. We had a $1.9 trillion bill on COVID back in March of 2020. All of this COVID relief was very demand-oriented, spurring demand, but didn't do a whole lot on the supply side. So we have an increase in demand or an increase in supply of dollars, chasing essentially a very limited supply of goods. And so that's why we've seen inflation really kind of skyrocket since April of 2021. In November, of course, the inflation rate was at 6.8%. That's the highest rate in over 40 years. We're expecting that number to be maybe slightly down, but pretty similar, 5.5% or so in December, and we should find that number out tomorrow. But when you look at, the state of Hawaii, for example, you've got inflation across a number of really important categories that impact everybody's daily lives, whether you're an employer, an employee, a consumer. 16% increase in the cost of meat, fish, poultry, 21% increase in the cost of household energy, 45% increase year over year in the cost of gasoline. I mean, these are major, major increases to cost of living, which is already in Hawaii one of the highest, right,
Right.
in the country. So this is going to continue to be a problem that we're looking out for, and it's one that is really high on the radar of the business community. When we talk to businesses, their top issues right now are inflation. 3/4 surveyed said that inflation is a problem, that they're raising prices as a result. And over half of the businesses that we surveyed said workforce, supply chain, those are other major issues that are negatively impacting their businesses. So those are the three big issues that we've got to look out for. And, once again, we've got to really advise Congress and the administration not to make those problems worse.
Yeah. Yep. And then when we add our high cost of regulation here in Hawaii, it adds to it further. So,
right.
and
exactly.
as you well know, and our costs are even higher here to start out with. So, yeah, that
Yep.
We certainly are willing to serve and help educate. So, please count us in on how we can help do that. Another big thing is I wanted to kind of get your sense on the national level here in Maui. Where each island in Maui, in the state of Hawaii, has been a little bit different in terms of their views. We've had so many here that are against getting, vaccines and adding a booster now to get into restaurants, and of course with the Biden administration's rules that he's been looking at. I'm just wondering what you're seeing, if you've done any national polling, and how people are feeling about that in general.
Sure. I think, with the vaccine mandates, the OSHA emergency temporary standard for employers with more than 100 employees, obviously a big kind of controversial issue. At the federal level, or at least, from the U.S. Chamber, from our perspective, looking at our members, we look to them on this, right? When the administration came out with the announcement that they were going to do this back in September, we looked to our membership to kind of gauge their thoughts. Most of our employers that had more than 100 employees were already had some sort of a vaccine requirement or testing requirement in place. We're planning to do so. So didn't get as much pushback from them, but I think that there was still a lot of concern about how this would ultimately go into force, what kind of costs employers would bear. And then on the workforce issue, once again, what would be the effect, right? If you had folks that couldn't come to work because they didn't want to get the vaccine or do the weekly testing, at a time when employers cannot afford to have folks, being forced essentially out of the workplace, that was a major concern, and we made sure to convey that to the administration. But I think in general, we saw a lot of chambers kind of take various positions on mandates. Some, against it because it was kind of an example of excessive overreach from the government. Others, kind of more neutral position. We decided to really not take a position for or against, but instead really wanted to focus on what we could do as the U.S. Chamber in helping our businesses comply with the mandate should it go into effect. So, we've kind of offered our guidance, our resources to businesses to try to help them out, to try to help them to navigate this. And we'll see ultimately what happens. Of course, the compliance date for the OSHA ETS was officially yesterday, January 10th. But of course, we've got the Supreme Court looking at this. They heard oral arguments on Friday. They haven't made a decision yet. We were kind of hoping that they would before the 10th, but unfortunately that hasn't happened. Just kind of, our take from what we heard on Friday, it does seem as though with the conservative majority on the court, 6-3, like there might be an inclination there to stay the emergency temporary standard and not have that go into effect. And then, of course, there's two different cases that they're looking at, that one, and then the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the CMS mandate for healthcare workers. A little bit more unclear as to what position they'll take on that one, but I think it kind of remains to be seen. But at the same time, like I said, our focus has really been on what can we do to help our companies prepare for this vaccine mandate, and what can they do to comply.
Have you folks looked into, it's something that everybody's discussing here, and looking at trying to buy in bulk and just, find groups who could help distribute so that the cost can be lowered for the businesses and we can get, the testing materials out to people who won't be vaccinated but need to do their regular testing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not so sure, but I'm happy to look into that. But I know that the cost, the testing costs as it relates to the ETS are supposed to be borne by the employees themselves and not the employers. But I think that there are a number of other kind of issues, obviously, that we had with the mandate that we were able to voice to the administration. So we'll see, obviously what happens with the courts, and they might kick this back to the agencies, to the administration to come up with kind of another solution to this issue. And if they do that, then we'll make sure to continue to be engaged with them on that as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We're a lot of companies, and of course even at the state level with the teachers and what have you, are supposed to be getting tested and doing that on a regular basis. We're running into, again, with supply chain issues and shortages and people wondering how they're going to get these tests. And then if people aren't able to get tests, or they're continuing to find it's very inconvenient to get the tests, and the tests aren't happening, and then people aren't getting to work. So it's sort of one other avenue that in some cases, not all, but in some cases is contributing, and then in some cases we're finding that employers, the pricing of the test is coming down, so in some cases employers are trying to help their employees with some of this if it's becoming a hardship.
Of course. Yeah, of course. And that you're exactly right. That has been a major problem, and I think the administration was a little slow to address that problem. But I also, we've heard of states taking kind of COVID relief money to do that as well. Obviously, a lot of money went to the states through the American Rescue Plan, and we've heard of a number of states that have, in order to address that testing issue, like you said, they've been looking at kind of purchasing their own tests and trying to get those out to their folks as quickly as possible. So, but that is a major, major problem for sure.
Yeah. Well, Jennings, I have loved having you on as always. Thank you so much for enlightening us this morning about the work that you're doing at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And I know that this is constant advocacy on your part, and we appreciate you doing it. We appreciate you working with the businesses to try and help them find solutions, and working with all of us across the nation. We're all in this together. It's still a time that's so unpredictable. But we want to be here and help, and we want to help participate in the advocacy efforts and share what's going on in our neck of the woods out here in the ocean. But really appreciate the work that you do every day to both fight for the business needs and let government know what's happening in the industry, different industries, and also keep us all informed and work with chambers of commerce across the nation to help us stay abreast and give us avenues to participate in polls and participate in signing onto letters and sharing our voice. It's a huge help.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me on, and thank you for all that you do, Pam, the Maui Chamber. Wouldn't be possible without, your constant feedback, your advocacy as well, and we rely on that. We rely on chambers and business community across the country to do that sort of thing, and you all do a great job in engaging really at all levels of government, but, we especially appreciate, obviously, the engagement on the federal level with the congressional delegation. That really makes a really big difference. So thank you, Pam, for all that you do.
Thank you, Jennings. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate that comment. Thanks so much, and you have a wonderful day. Right here in Maui, it just started raining. So I know now you've got better weather than me today.
Yeah, well, we need some of that rain, though. So.
Yeah, okay. We'll send it our way. I'll blow real hard. Thanks, Jennings. Sam. You take care, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. You too.
Thank
Bye.
you. We'll be right back, folks, after a brief message from our sponsor.
Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal.
All right, if you are just tuning in, this is Business Matters, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce. And we are going to welcome Toni Davis, the Executive Director of the Activities and Attractions Association of Hawaii. Toni has been doing this business for 24 years now as the Executive Director. It's also conveniently known as A3H for the Activities and Attractions Association of Hawaii. It's a 501c6 membership organization, and it is an organization that can lobby and helps to collectively market fun things to do in Hawaii. Toni herself is also a small business owner operating Pono Res, a real-time ticketing system serving many of Hawaii's tours and activity companies. Good morning, Toni. How are you today, and Happy New Year?
Good morning, Pam. Happy New Year to you, too.
Thank you so much. Did you have a good New Year's celebration?
I have animals, so it's always, babysitting them because of all the noise. It's a balance, right? Like everything here on the island.
I hear you. My mom has the same issue. Her dogs shake for days, and it's just terrible. And it's such a hard thing.
We need to do something centrally. The county should pay for a show, and we should enforce the laws much better. I mean, make the fines $10,000 or something, and let neighbors take pictures and turn their neighbors in. So I know those people that have animals are just, we just shake our heads. We don't get it. Or vets with PTSD. I mean, it's really hard on them as well.
Yeah, it was an interesting year, too. It seemed like, for me, a lot of fireworks, more than I've seen in the past several years.
Ditto.
Yeah. It was a big year. Well, I know you and I don't know if you got to hear Jennings just before you got on, but I know that you and I are having the same discussions with our businesses and staffing shortages. Tell me what's happening in the activities businesses.
Well, yeah. In the visitor industry sector, our sector of activities and attractions, we got hit harder from COVID than any other. The airlines, rental cars, and hotels didn't get nearly as hit as hard as the activities and attractions. Hotels were reportedly down 20 to 30%. Activities and attractions were shut, 100% closed for many, many, many months. And when we've come back, we are experiencing staff shortages like everyone because we had this exiting kind of middle management, actually, from what I've been told from members is it was kind of a brain drain. People that were really instrumental in running their business, those are the people that really left. And what's happening is owners are stepping up. They're getting, rolling up their sleeves and doing what they haven't done in years. Instead of managing the business, they are deep in operations and running it. Some of the things that I'm noticing that they're doing to help bring staff up is, they're being more appreciative towards the staff that's there. And actually during interviews, and never before has this happened, but people are coming in to interview, and because it's such a employees market, so to speak, they're coming in with requirements. Okay, this is what I need in order for you to hire me. You need to, meet this level of salary, meet this level of benefits. There's so many also signing on bonuses things happening. I mean, at like Ace Hardware.
Yes,
the last one, and the fast food change, right? Those are some of the things that are happening.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most innovative things that I've heard recently that seems to be successful is calling past employees that you had a good relationship with, that are here. I mean, think about it. Nothing compliments you more than having someone who you respected and you worked with and had a good relationship call you and say, hey, you were great. I'd love for you to come back. This is what I'm offering. And, it's one way to bring somebody on very quickly that's akamai to your business, too, that you don't have to do all that expensive training, which can be really costly just in the time and also with the mistakes that somebody makes that doesn't know any better, right, when they come on new. So the other thing that many of the larger activities and attractions is using an HR service, right? ProService is great. ProService has been serving Hawaii for many, many years, and they offer a great service.
Yeah, the Pro Service is a chamber member, so thank you. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
They do.
They're good people.
They're great people, and it can save a lot of small businesses and medium and large businesses some money as well. And there are great employers services in this community to help businesses address some of these challenges. You mentioned, and I sort of asked the same thing of Jennings again. You mentioned that they're missing some of that middle management who really stepped up and helped the owners in managing the business and overseeing operations.
And you don't get middle management without years, right?
Yeah. So where are they going?
Because you can't pass that baton to just anybody you just hired. So.
Yeah, exactly. Where are they? Are we hearing where they're going or what they're doing?
Many are moving off island.
Okay.
I mean, one incident that I'm aware of was with a manager at PCC, Polynesian Cultural Center on Oahu. In sharing with their president, I mean, he was just astounded by how many middle management people left, and a lot of them went to Utah, which can be understandable, right?
Right, the connection between Utah and the Polynesian Cultural Center.
Some of them kept their homes here because of the potential rental income and being able to cover their mortgage, but many moved because Hawaii, out of all the 50 states, we were the most impacted by COVID.
Right.
And it's because of our dependency on tourism, which it's a double-edged sword, because you know me, Pam, I love tourism.
I know.
You just managing it is the trick.
Yeah, it's we've been working on this now for a while, as you and I know.
Yes.
And the good news
2017, 2019, now we got the DMAP.
And now we've got the DMAP, but the good news is we've got somebody actually running the DMAP process. It's not a plan that's sitting on the shelf. Thank God.
Right, Megan there at NBD. She's
Megan
terrific,
is
too.
doing
I love all the young energy. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's coming at a time where I'm excited to see, we're getting more regular updates on the plan. We're seeing the activity and the movement going forward. We're seeing new programs emerge. I was in a meeting the other day where we were talking about increased fall and tourism opportunities. So many wonderful things.
Those things are manini though compared to the big. It's like the Bill 148. That being, the mayor vetoed it, the council passed it. It's a balance. I get it's a balance, but I mean, if you look at the demographics of the people that come here, right? If we're going to have people visit here, tourism is going to be an industry that we have here in the islands. We need to have people that come here, and I know this is so distasteful to some people. We need people that come here and do stuff. We can't have them flop and drop on the beach. It doesn't pay for being inconvenienced to have people here. We need people here that insert money into our economy that was made in a different economy. And when you look across the sections of the different accommodations that are available between timeshare, hotels, condos, vacation rentals, in camping, which I cringe when I think of people coming here to camp. And the people that camp don't do a lot of stuff. They don't do things that cost money. They just don't. When you look at it, for years we were told timeshare spend the most. They come here and they think their accommodations are free because they've been paying for it over time. I think that was a sales job done on the industry, honestly, because when the numbers, John Knotts, I think it was in 2019, it was the HTA strategic planning thing that so many of us have been involved in over the years, and he shared some stats that we hadn't seen. Timeshare is not a big, those people don't spend a lot of money. The people that spend the most money are people staying in hotels.
Absolutely. And
people staying in vacation rentals. Not Airbnb, but when they rent the whole home. More of the VRBO, the HomeAway, now VRBO, Expedia, whatever.
Yeah.
That's another whole show I could talk to you about middlemen. That demographic. So those are the things that we really should support. But I recognize, we're so sensitive about over-tourism in our county, and I get that because it wasn't managed well. And part of management comes from the lack of enforcement, and we need to really crack down. If you study Venice and Ireland and Spain and the places that really had huge over-tourism, the root cause was these Airbnbs, just the sprawl of greedy homeowners making money and not really caring about their community, and the fabric of the community fell away. People didn't have a place to stay, which is what we're finding too. Part of the reason staff shortages, people can't find long-term rentals.
Right.
There's a shift that's kind of happened. I mean, I talked to Marvin at the airport, and he mentioned to me that he's never seen so many private jets come into Maui.
Yeah.
We are getting really, really wealthy people coming here and buying up homes as they come up for sale. And, it's a shift in who we are. And, I haven't been that involved with the charter group, and I'm a little embarrassed. I feel really ignorant about what stage they're at. But
it's at an interesting stage.
Is it? Are you involved in that?
Today, I think, or maybe it's tomorrow. But there was they left off with 80 proposals, and Lance Collins, who'd been leading it, had to resign, or chose to resign. Not had to. He chose to resign. So
Lance Collins was leading it.
Mm-hmm. The charter proposal,
Wow.
the charter commission. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I've been meaning to see if I couldn't have some voice with them, just because I'm so opinionated about the things I've seen over the years, and where we go.
Yeah, we've been ringing. I mean, it's been a long process. They had over 130 proposals, and they're down to my understanding is it's close to 80. And we've been ringing in every meeting, and it's been hard to keep up with. God bless them for serving, because it's been a lot to go through and an interesting process, because you'd have proposals without knowing the pros or cons or the rationale for the idea. And so you were kind of in the early stages sort of taking a shot at the dark, trying to understand what they were trying to get to. And then beyond starting to understand what the idea was and vetting of the idea. But, it's been a good process it's been well run and a good process for giving people testimony time to provide input. Sometimes there were so many proposals on the docket you could.
So have I missed the boat on giving testimony?
No, they'll be having public hearings, I think, once they pare down.
Oh, okay.
So, but you might have missed the boat on the other. What would I maybe about 50 other proposals.
Yeah, no, I'd rather get involved when it's kind of slimmed down to less stuff to read.
Usually, what did we have? 13 charter amendments on the last ballot. And now I don't know how we're going to look at a potential of 80. So I think the meeting coming up this week, I don't have my calendar in front of me. It's either today or tomorrow, I think. But, I think that there's still going to be some opportunities to give input. Okay. But a lot of it has been really kind of gone through at this point.
Yeah, I would think
there's
so many Akamai people here on this island that just love this place so much, and they get it. That I have faith in them, but I wonder sometimes if that's kind of lazy of me or selfish of me not to give more time with the things that I've acquired over the years in watching the industry from my perspective.
Yeah, it's important. I think that's the key thing that you and I really value is the dialogue and people sharing their points of view. And my biggest concern is that so much of it is short-lived. You have 3 minutes to give dialogue and 3 minutes to give one-directional testimony, and we're not really getting to a lot of the dialogue, ferreting things out, hearing pros and cons, working through things, having that level of engagement.
And with the election year coming up, it really irritates me when people in political positions, they politic, right? Make a mountain out of a molehill kind of thing. Yeah. I'm just never mind. I won't go there. It's really irritating though, because I feel like it's such a responsibility to be a politician these days, and some of them just the balanced view is there's us them, and that should never be. If you're a leader, that should never be. You need to listen to all sides and look for a balance, because things aren't the way they are because we've been, irresponsible or ignorant all these years. Things are the way they are because it works. I'm talking about tourism, because there's a really undercurrent of anti-tourism in Maui County, and it's, I mean, anybody that owns a house, hello, your property taxes are low because we have tourism. That's why we, don't pay 20 times more in property taxes. So.
Yeah. But, in addition to some of the things that were said about the hotels and some of the things that were said about TVRs, the other thing that comes up, and it is a top priority for the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and I know it's a priority for you, too, is it's affordable housing and rentals. And, I think a lot of these opinions are people are just frustrated, and they're saying, look, the tourists get to come here, but we can barely survive here, and it keeps coming back to affordable housing and rentals. Yeah. And, we're wanting to and continuing to work towards championing these issues and looking for solutions. And I really feel, again, that's another place where we need to kind of unite and come together. We need, and that's one of the reasons I keep asking, too, like, where are people going? What industry are they moving to, or what's happening? Because people are leaving the island. Because, again, we're getting our local families are getting priced out of paradise. And so, and prices are going up, and we're seeing
inflation is here, people.
Inflation's here, but also we're seeing people coming in, like you said, from abroad, and with ready cash and buying up a lot of land right now. And so it's getting to be a significant challenge. And some of the stuff that I've been seeing is big acreage is getting bought up. Yep. So the acreage that might otherwise down the road have been something that could have been a larger development, or a development that included, mixed housing markets and things that could have included affordable. It's something we're going to have to kind of really watch and see where we go. But we're definitely united in trying to find solutions for affordable housing and rentals, because our workforce is going to need it. And we don't want to see a mass exodus of people leaving, that were born and raised here and want to stay here, but getting priced out of having a home here.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, my 3 kids, born and raised here. None of them live here. They it just didn't work well for them. But they're thriving on the mainland, Texas, California, and Michigan. They're thriving. So it's
a tough thing. I always tell the story. My daughter was able to buy a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house.
Yep.
For $170K, totally renovated, brand new on 9,000 square feet.
Yep.
Very
similar. Yeah, very similar for my kids. Yeah.
Yeah, and you go, gosh, it's those are the challenges we're up against. So, but this is a time when we get creative. We need to find new solutions, and the biggest thing is we need to keep working on it and share our voice. So, let's encourage people to do that. I love that you shared solutions. I'm going to have to bring Angela on soon, but just really appreciate you participating in the show today. Toni,
thank you, Pam, for having me. It's always a pleasure.
I always
look forward to the next
to
meeting
well.
I see you at.
Hopefully soon.
Zoom. Okay.
No, I think we're going to meet later this week. Are we?
Oh, yeah. No, there's an 11. Are you on the 11 o'clock? Never mind. Yeah.
Yes.
There's one today at 11.
Yep.
Yes.
I'll be on
Industry.
that.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Talk
All
to
right.
you soon.
Well, you have a wonderful
Aloha.
day. Thank
You
you.
too.
Aloha.
Bye.
All right. For those who are just tuning in, this is the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show, and we are excited to have one of our new Made in Maui County Festival participants. Unfortunately, Angela Bascon, who is the owner of the Good Apple, participated this year, and it was her first year, and of course, as everybody knows, this year we had beyond any local control. There was nothing we could do. The system went down due to a mainland software server component that failed. And so she didn't have the greatest first experience, but we rescheduled, as you know, more than once. By the third time it was a charm. We had a live event. But Angela has been on island. She grew up in a family of bakers and hobbyists, and she's originally from Oregon, but she moved here when she was 12 years old and started making caramel apples as a hobby in 2008 while working full-time managing a design company and traveling internationally. And so that hobby has grown for her, and she's got a very popular product, and so she had to, for a period of time, she kind of put it on the shelf and focused on family and work, but then continued managing different companies until she was laid off due to COVID. And that's what got her started in making caramel apples again. So we're excited to learn more about Angela's venture and learn more about the good apple. Angela, you there with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Pamela.
Aloha. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So I am so excited. I have not had one of your apples, but I have to say that just looking at the pictures of one of your apples is like mouth-watering.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on the show.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's quickly become popular with just the first try. Then customers end up coming back every week because they can't get enough of it. We call it the good apple addiction, jokingly.
Well, that's not a terrible addiction to have. What's the old saying? An apple a day keeps the doctor away. So that's pretty good.
Right. There are health benefits in there.
Yes. I was going to say somewhere, but that's my kind of health benefit. Why don't you describe, for people who don't know what your apples look like, give them an example of your different varieties of apples.
Well, basically, I make my own homemade caramel, which is kind of the key factor in the whole, crave of it all. I don't use any apple dip, caramel dip. So that itself, the recipe that I developed back in 2008, I kind of just kept with me when I resurrected it this past year due to the pandemic. And so I start with the homemade caramel, and then I just try to come up with different flavors that is kind of outside of the box. Something that you see in, a variety of desserts, something that reminds you of something in your childhood favorite, and even new exciting things that come up. So I try to make it exciting so it doesn't get stale like the same old menu. And that kind of keeps the customers excited for every month, because we do flavors of the month. Every month, new flavors come out.
Wow, I didn't know you had flavors of the month. So everybody's got to check your website. That's a good idea, though. Great idea. So everybody's got to check every month.
My kids and my husband kind of inspired me and pushed me, actually, to start an Instagram. And once I did that, there was no going back, because I had a customer fan base that was from back in 2008, and everybody's been asking me for years when I'm going to make apples again. And now that I wasn't working and the kids were going back to school, I was like, what am I going to do? Let me just, maybe I'll just do this part-time to keep me busy. And there was no part-time. It just went full-blown into full-time, and it's been that way ever since. And so that Instagram just kind of expanded everything. So we reached out that way, and everybody follows it every month, waiting for the first of the month for the new flavors to come out. And we've just gone from there.
So you said flavors plural. How many new flavors do you come out with each month?
Well, we started with 4 a month, and then it kind of during the holidays expanded to 5.
Wow.
Just because I couldn't make up my mind for, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And it kind of stuck for this month. I've thought about going back to 4, but 5 seems to be the happy magic number. And we were invited to be a featured product in the Maui Cookie Lady store in Mokuau.
Yeah.
And they love the idea of having 5 flavors, so we kind of just stuck with that for now.
And where else can people... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I think overall we have about 25 flavors right now, but I literally have a running list of flavors that I'm going to release over time. I've already got my February, my March. I'm going into April and May.
There you go. You're a prolific apple artist.
Yeah, I don't, they just come to me when I'm literally driving, or I'm somewhere, or I'm doing dishes, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be a great flavor, and I go write it down.
That's fantastic. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
it's fun, and I wanted to bring something to the islands that we didn't really have here. I mean, it really came when we went to Disneyland and we saw, the bakery there. They have just an amazing assortment of caramel apples, and they look pretty. That smells amazing, and so I was like, hey, we should do that here. I could make those, and then it just kind of developed from that organically. And Maui doesn't have, like a caramel apple store. I mean, in the mainland, there's tons of them everywhere, but here we don't. And the Maui cookie lady, Missy, she said, your apples remind me of Mrs. Prindables, and she would order from there for like families and friends and stuff. And now she orders ours to give as gifts because she loves them so much. So that was really, awesome and inspiring.
that is so fantastic. So you've got them at Mitzi's. You've got them online. Is there another place that they can be found?
We've had a few places, about 2 or 3 other places on Maui that wanted to sell our apples. I kind of turned that down for now, just because of the specialty it is. It's important to me where we put them in for sale. And I'm so busy with direct ordering for customers who order through our Facebook website or Instagram that we're just doing one wholesale account right now, since we are their featured product in their store. They made a sign for us at Mitzi's. It's outside of her cookie store. And so it's kind of a really perfect fit for us right now, just because of what she offers. And she offers so many awesome local specialty desserts that a lot of people didn't even know about.
No, that's true. Well, we've got about 30 seconds left, so I'm going to have you tell everybody where they can find you online and on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. Well, we are located at the Maui Cookie Lady store in Maui, right on Baldwin Avenue, and we also have our website, which is thegoodapplemaui.com. Our Facebook is The Good Apple Maui, and our Instagram is The Good Apple. Our Instagram kind of feeds everything, so that seems to get the most updates on a daily basis.
Perfect. Well, we were so glad to have you as part of the Made in Maui County Festival. So glad to have you on today. And I'll be looking. Everybody check back monthly, because you're going to see 5 new treats.
Yeah, Valentine's is coming up.
Yeah, have a great day, Angela.
You too. Thanks, Pamela.
Thank you. Well, for everybody listening in, this is Business Matters, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce, wishing you blessings and best wishes for a beautiful Maui day.